Hello, friends and neighbors, and welcome back to the poem of the day for today, Tuesday, September the 2nd, 2025. I hope that yesterday you were able to take some time on Labor Day to take a break, to not work, to have some rest, and maybe find peace and reflection and relaxation. I hope that those opportunities were afforded to you and that you were able to seize them, if even just for a little while. So today, the poem I would like to read is a reflection on this, I guess, hot take I have, which is that fall does not begin September, 22nd or something like that, where they tell us on the calendars that it's the turn to fall. I actually think that the seasons, obviously there's no one day, but I like to think of it in terms of just 3-month chunks. So for me, fall started yesterday on September the 1st, and it will go until November 30th, at which point on December the 1st, we're in winter. I know that is not the correct way to think about it, but I also appreciate the regimentedness of the changing of the seasons with the changing of the calendar. So for me, we're in fall, and fall is my favorite time of the year. Fall for me, in addition to the aesthetics, the smells, the wonderful weather, good movies, being into the school year but not being exhausted from it yet, October baseball. In addition to all of those things, fall for me has the strongest sense of what Marcel Proust wrote about in terms of involuntary memory, or these sense-based reveries. There is a smell to fall that I think is more powerful and recognizable than the smell to any other seasons. For me, summer is indicated by the way in which the sun feels a little bit different, but fall has a smell to it that has the power to immediately take me back to previous falls when I also experienced that smell in a way that just gives these faintest glimpses, these faintest snapshots in my consciousness of being in a different time, in a different place, often many, many years ago. And I find that to be very powerful, both as a way to reflect on my life, but also with a little sense of melancholy. And I think that fall has a quality to it, in addition to being warm and tasty in a sense. It has a quality to it of being melancholy and nostalgic at the same time. And that's I think, the primary mode of the poem that I want to read today, which I first encountered when I was a senior in high school. It was given to us by a teacher as an option for a project we could do. And I had never heard of this poet, and I had never heard of this poem. And until today, even as I was trying to find this again, I can't really find when it was written or what it was published in, the longer collection it was published in, even though the poet is better known. So the poet is Stephen Dobyns, and he's an American poet. And the closest I can find is that this was perhaps written in the 1970s. But the poem is called How to Like It. And that is what I'm going to read today. I heard it for the first time in high school, and it had a pretty profound impact on me then for capturing this feeling of nostalgia and melancholy. And I've revisited it every few years, and I still think it contains that power. So here is How to Like It by Stephen Dobyns. These are the first days of fall. The wind at evening smells of roads still to be traveled, while the sound of leaves blowing across lawns is like an unsettled feeling in the blood, the desire to get in the car and just keep driving. A man and a dog descend their front steps. The dog says, "Let's go downtown and get crazy drunk. Let's tip over all the trash cans we can find." This is how dogs deal with the prospect of change. But in his sense of the season, the man is struck by the oppressiveness of his past, how his memories, which were shifting and fluid, have grown more solid, until it seems he can remember faces caught up among the dark places in the trees. The dog says, "Let's pick up some girls and just rip off their clothes. Let's dig holes everywhere. Above his house, the man notices wisps of cloud crossing the face of the moon. Like in a movie, he says to himself. A movie about a person leaving on a journey. He looks down the street to the hills outside the town and finds the cut where the road heads north. He thinks of driving on that road, and the dusty smell of the car heater, which hasn't been used since last winter. The dog says, let's go downtown to the diner and sniff people's legs. Let's stuff ourselves on burgers. In the man's mind, the road is empty and dark. Pine trees pressed down to the edge of the shoulder, where the eyes of animals fixed in his headlights shine like small cautions against the night. Sometimes a passing truck makes the whole car shake. The dog says, let's go to sleep. Let's lie down by the fire and put our tails over our noses. But the man wants to drive all night, crossing one state line after another, and never stop until the sun creeps into his rearview mirror. Then he'll pull over and rest a while before starting again. And at dusk, he'll crest a hill, and there, filling a valley, will be the lights of a city entirely new to him. But the dog says, let's just go back inside. Let's not do anything tonight. So they walk back up the sidewalk to the front steps. How is it possible to want so many things and still want nothing? The man wants to sleep and wants to hit his head again and again against a wall. Why is it all so difficult? But the dog says, let's go make a sandwich. Let's make the tallest sandwich anyone's ever seen. And that's what they do. And that's where the man's wife finds him, staring into the refrigerator as if into the place where the answers are kept. The ones telling you why you get up in the morning and how it is possible to sleep at night. Answers to what comes next and how to like it. A poem still works on me. As I was reading, I was getting goosebumps. It has this quality to me of, even though the man is older, especially as we read in the first days of fall, which I read not just as early September, but also the first days of his old age, or his at least past the midpoint of his life. And so he's likely older than I am, and yet I have this feeling in regards to him of being somewhat disapproving of his actions and completely understanding of some of his impulses. It's a relationship that I share, that he shares in my feeling with someone like Holden Caulfield from The Catcher in the Rye. When I was a young person and I read that and I was about 15 years old, I thought, gosh, this is really what it's like. This book really understands me. And then when I read it again, because I had to teach it when I was about 27 or 28, I found him understandable, but sad and kind of pathetic. He felt to me like somebody you would greet with a warm smile and a pat on the shoulder and go, relax, buddy, it's going to be okay. And I feel similar to the speaker in this poem because he's experiencing a night of indecision, but the night of indecision is symptomatic of a life of indecision. And he's realizing now on the kind of over the hill point that time's running out, and he's fraught between looking back at all of these things that he could have done, these faces fixed into the trees, or looking forward at these new adventures that he fantasizes he would be able to have. This idea that he could go on a journey like in a movie, and this idea that he could crest a hill and see the lights of a city entirely new to him. But both of those things are situated in intangible places in time. The past, which we can't revisit or fix or correct, and the future, which is something that has not come yet and has not happened to us and is something that's uncertain. All he's able to do is the thing in the moment that night. And while the fantasy, the romantic fantasy of getting in the car and driving is something that might seem like, yes, it's not, there's still time. There's a small little reveal at the end that the man has a wife. And so those fantasies of abandonment, whether it's what the dog says going into town to rip off all the girls' clothes, or whether it's going on a bender and getting drunk, or whether it's driving into the next city, all become incredibly irresponsible and destructive choices. And yet those fantasies are still there for him. And so the dog, I think, in this poem acts as the voice for possibilities that are wild and impulsive and often destructive. Even the example of, let's dig holes everywhere. I get this idea of not just kind of tearing up the things that are yours and the things that you're supposed to take care of, something like your lawn, and something that's a symbol of stability and a symbol of a certain amount of responsibility or affluence. But I also often think of the dog sort of sticking its head in there and hiding from the responsibilities that are all around. Kicking over trash cans, leaving messes for other people to have to clean up, being destructive and self-destructive in willy-nilly ways. These aren't impulses I get myself, but they're impulses that people I know have. And so a big reason why I think this poem has stuck with me is that I don't like using the word universal. I don't really believe anything is universal, but there's a highly relatable quality for a lot of people, I think, of looking at a particular moment in their life and wondering, did I make all of the right choices to get here? And if I'm slightly unsatisfied, is it too late to drastically change something? For myself, I think that he makes the right decision in the end to go back inside and make a big sandwich. I think that this is, while it is a larger, profounder experience than just the indecision of a single night, what doing that does is it's a small indulgence, kind of like some people do retail therapy. You're feeling really badly, you go buy yourself a really nice new dress or something like that. And it's this slight indulgence you're allowing yourself, but it's nothing self-destructive. You don't clean out the bank account, you don't buy a Maserati, something like that. You just treat yourself a little bit. And so that's what I see in the tallest sandwich anyone's ever seen. You could almost substitute this with order a large Domino's and eat the whole thing. And I think that a lot of the time that is kind of just the answer to these moments, that you need something to treat yourself in a hedonistic way a little bit that's not really going to do any damage, because you can't fix those fixed faces in the trees. You can't go back to those things in the past, and probably where you are, at least from the story that we get from this man, is a place that's not all that bad. You're feeling just a little bit of existential anxiety or a little bit of angst. We don't get the sense here that he's made decisions that have led to, someone's death, for example. And the uncertainty about the future is just precisely the anxiety of being permanent and wondering if you're doing enough to be significant. And again, these are relatable things, but it's nothing that's going to be solved that night. And so I think going back inside for him is a recommitment to the life that he has, because even if it is temporarily a little bit boring for him at times, that's a part of the experience of living. Not everything is a peak experience. Not everything is viewed by us as splendid from moment to moment. And the mundanity and the day-to-day of things, the small decisions that we make, I think are closer to a representation of life than something that is highly climactic. And so the best way out of this angst can be to embrace the day-to-day, and to make small, delightful changes, like making a really big sandwich. And the last thing I'm left is he needs to talk to his wife. I'm not sure what she was out doing, but she finds him staring into the refrigerator as if the place where answers were kept, the ones telling you why you get up in the morning and how it is possible to sleep at night, answers to what comes next and how to like it. I think he needs to talk to her, because he's not alone, but the entire previous 50 lines of this poem is just him and his dog. And the dog, again, I don't read necessarily literally so much as an expression of our more impulsive and animalistic desires. No offense to dogs. I love dogs and I have one, but I think that's how they function in this poem. And that the man needs to share, because whatever is coming next is also going to involve her. And if it's impossible for him to come to terms with how to like it, then broader conversations need to happen. I don't know if he's going to be okay by the end of the poem. But again, to take it back to the Holden Caulfield example, I feel like he just needs someone to sit him down and let him know that this yearning, and this pining, and this longing that he's experiencing is something that's very normal, and it's something that's going to come back, and it's something that a lot of people experience. And it's just that pulling feel of melancholy and nostalgia that a lot of people have, a feeling of things slipping away, but things that maybe you never had to begin with. I don't know. That's just some reflections that I have. And I know that they were scattered and not really focused a lot on style today, as I often do. It was focused a lot on content and reflection to it. But that is truly how the poem has lived in my mind all these years. And I hope that if you haven't read it before, and this was new for you, that it had a similar impact, even if you don't read it exactly the way that I do, because I just think there's a plainness to it that is that cuts really deep. So thank you for being with us and for being with us this long. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I wish you peace.